I'm sitting in the passenger seat. Elvis is driving. He just turns to me and he says, "The rules don't confine, they define. True genius works within form." It's riveted in my brain.
How do you begin creating or writing a character?
I begin everything with arbitrary choice. Arbitrary choice says, I'm going to start with the first thing that comes to my mind and not worry about whether it's the right thing. I'm not going to obsess about it. I'm going to explore it, see where it goes. If it goes someplace fruitful, great, I'll chase it down. If it doesn't, I'll find another arbitrary choice and make that instead. There are a lot of different ways to make a first arbitrary choice. Some people start with title. You might say, I'm going to make a sitcom called My Life is Hell. Okay, what does that suggest? Probably center and eccentrics, about a character who thinks, probably a teenage girl, her life is hell, and she's surrounded by people who agree with her, or who are designed to make her life hell. The first thing was the title, and it started to suggest other possibilities. I might start with a character with a strong attitude, I need to find love. And then from that, I might derive the title, I need to find love, or some other better title. I might start with a problem I'm interested in solving. How do I make a living in the world? Oh, maybe I'll make a sitcom about people who are trying to make a living. Now I've got an ensemble about young people new in the workplace, all struggling to find their place in the world. It doesn't matter where you start, because in this sense, we creative comic creators are operating like a certain kind of detective. And I say certain kind of detective because a detective will find clues and follow clues, but what we're doing is inventing clues and following clues. So when I say the title of the show is I Hate My Life, that's a clue. It's a clue to who the characters are, what kind of conflict they're going to have, where they live, what their socioeconomic status is, a whole bunch of other stuff. So I might say, okay, well, I have a clue. The clue is I've got a show called I Hate My Life. Where does that clue lead? It leads to a character, naturally, who hates their life. Now I get to make a choice. Male, female, young, old, doesn't matter. I'm making choices. The minute you start making choices, you're in creativity. You are in creativity. You are in creative problem solving. You're in creative development. Everything you do boils down to choice. I think I'll call the show I Hate My Life. No, I'm going to call it I Love My Life. I made a choice. I think I'll call the character Deirdre. No, I'm going to call the character Boxy Boxerson. I don't know where that came from. I made a choice. If you allow yourself a playfulness around choice, then you can make choices and keep the story going and follow the clues and see where they lead. It's hard to allow yourself playfulness sometimes because you're afraid of making the wrong choice. Well, guess what? You never need to worry about making the wrong choice early on because you don't have enough information yet to know what the right choice even is. You might make a choice and then go make a different choice, but you can never judge it right or wrong. You don't have enough information to judge it right or wrong. So you make a choice, which creates a clue. You follow the clue to the point where you have to make another choice. You make a choice, you follow it to the next clue, you make that choice, and you're off and running. All of this can be done very easily without a lot of emotional burden, as long as you're willing to be wrong. And I'm willing to be wrong all day. I don't fear bad outcomes. I just want outcomes. I don't care if they're good or bad. I need a lot of them, and I get them by making choices.
Do you think that a lot of new writers fall into that trap?
Yeah.
They're afraid of being wrong?
Yeah. It can be found in the difference between the word evaluation and judgment. The judgment says, I'm making mistakes. I'm a bad writer. I'm making bad choices. And it's common to make that judgment when you're young because you don't have enough experience to know what good choices are like. And consequently, you have a lot more insecurity and you're much more likely to negatively self-judge. Evaluation says, where am I now? Where do I want to go? And is this choice going to move me closer to it? Is it closing the gap between where I am and where I want to be? That's knowing the difference between evaluation and judgment is a lesson that one learns through the practice of creative development, through doing a lot of writing. But it's very common for young people to have this because here's the balance. Too much insecurity and not enough experience. As the years go by, experience rises, insecurity drops, and you get into a point where there's a certain amount of balance. And then if you continue long enough, you get to be an old fart like me, where you have so much experience that you have no insecurity. The way I put it is, what are they going to do me now? Kill me? You know, I'm playing with the house's money now. I got nothing to lose. So I need not fear insecurity at all in my choice making. And at that point, I can just love it. I can just do it for the sake of love. Doubt, fear, insecurity. This is the stuff that we can call this the friction in the creative process. It's very common. It's quite acceptable. It's who we are when we're starting out. The name of the game is to acknowledge and accept. I'm aware that I have this doubt, insecurity, fear, okay? But I'm going to push on just the same. I'm going to make choices and see where they lead. Eventually you make choices and see where they lead, and you get excited about what you're doing. And that's an antidote to doubt, fear, and insecurity. You're so excited about the work, you stop being afraid of doing the work.
You know, can I do a sidebar here, just real quick, a side question? You've mentioned this dream where Elvis came to you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it was Elvis? And why do you think those words were spoken to you?
That's a very good question. I will answer it in a roundabout way. The other night, I had a dream about Scott Baio, the star of Charles in Charge, TV show that I worked on once upon a time. Why did I have that dream? Because he was a clue in a crossword puzzle that I'd been working on. That's obvious. On one level, I think that I had a dream about Elvis because I had encountered a conversation about Elvis or a story about Elvis, and just in the way the subconscious works, it tosses that stuff up. If I were to tell you the picture of the dream, we're driving across the desert to Las Vegas, a place I loved passionately at the time. I noticed that the car didn't have wheels. It was flying on a carpet of air, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. Elvis is driving. He just turns to me and he says, "The rules don't confine, they define. True genius works within form." It's riveted in my brain. Why did I get that instruction? Because my brain coughs up instruction out of my subconscious. I'll give you another example. You know my last name is Vorhaus, and it's a little bit of a funny, a little bit of a naughty joke. Rhymes with, well, never mind, it's easy to remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had a dream, and this is about the same time I had the Elvis dream. I'm doing stand-up comedy, and I say, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Vorhaus. It rhymes with whorehouse. It's been that way all my life, and I'm sick of it." This is in a dream. I say, "So I'm changing my name. My new name, Vordello." Which is funny because it defeats the expectation. You think it's going to be Smith or Jones, but it's another name for house of ill repute.
Right.
And I woke up from that dream and I said, my subconscious is getting all the good lines. Why didn't I get that line? Why didn't my parents? Why didn't my whole family? Generations of Vorhauses never stumbled across that joke, and my subconscious kicked it out. At that point, I made a promise to myself. I'm going to study this. This is what led to the comic toolbox. I literally said, why is my subconscious having all the fun? I want to have that fun. I want to know how to do that without waiting for the dream. So I think Elvis told me that because I was probably maybe struggling against the constraint of situation comedy. Like why do I have to shoot it in a living room in a coffee shop? Why can't I shoot it at the top of Mount Wilson? Why can't I take it to Las Vegas or something like? Why can't I go big? So I think probably, now that you asked the question, I was struggling to come to terms with the constraints that I was feeling, and I was giving myself some useful information on that subject.
And one last time, what was the line?
The rules don't confine, they define. True genius works within form.
Okay. The king has spoken. I just thought it was interesting that you and you mentioned that in another interview, so I just thought there was something interesting about it. And Elvis had passed away by this point?
No, probably, well, yes, he had, because he died in 1977, and I was in Ireland when he died, and they treated it like a national tragedy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Worldwide.
Right.
But more to the point, round about 1987 or so, when I was pitching to Married with Children, there was a story in the LA Times about Jesus showing up on somebody's home in the form of a water stain.
Yes.
You might remember that
I do.
story. So I went into Married with Children and I pitched, Elvis appears in a water stain. And they didn't buy it from me. You know why? Because they had bought it from somebody else earlier that day.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well. And I thought, wow, that's not fair.
Whoa.
But it was instructive. It taught me, you know what, if you have the idea, somebody else has the idea too. So don't be precious about your ideas. Everybody has the same ideas. Somebody else read the paper, had the same funny idea. They just happened to get in there earlier than I did. I don't care. I got in earlier someplace else. It's just the way of the world. But probably that's why Elvis was on my mind, because it was in the zeitgeist. Oh, in my own zeitgeist, rather. And it was on my, Elvis was on my mind because I was pitching Elvis.
It was in the Zeitgeist.
It was in the zeitgeist, yes.
What's your trick to discovering who your character is right now without having to create some long backstory?
I think what you're trying to ask me is, would I rather spend a lot of time writing a laborious, detailed backstory of a character, or would I rather do something else? And the answer is, I will always do something else. And the something else is put the character in story and see how they operate. What we're talking about is a situation where you have a new character, new to you. You don't know the character very well. So you might say to yourself, well, I'm going to discover that character by writing their backstory, where they went to school, who their friends were, what their upbringing was like, and all of this stuff is going to give me information that I can infer that will help me know how the character is going to act. But to me, that's really boring. I'm going to create documents that nobody wants to read, and I don't want to read, and I don't want to write. It's going to be a waste of time. Instead, I'm going to put the character in a situation and see how they act. I'm going to just put them in a situation where they have to make a choice, where I have to make a choice. And the choice will tell me something about the character, something I want to keep or set aside. If I want to keep it, I'll move on and make another choice, learn something new, keep or set aside. If I set it aside, I don't worry about it anymore. If I keep it, it's leading me down a road of discovery. So I will learn much more about a character more quickly and with a lot more fun simply by putting them in a situation and seeing how they behave, rather than going through the odious task of writing a Bible or a backstory around them. When I'm working in a development role, I never look at Bibles. I never look at backstory. Show me in a story, show me in a script. That's all I really care about. Audience isn't going to read the Bible. They're not going to read the backstory. They want to see how the character acts now, today. So that's why I do that. I want to put them in a situation and see how they behave. Let's take an example of a character. I hate my life, and I don't know anything about her. I'm going to make an arbitrary choice. She's a teenager, living in a typical teenage house with a younger brother who annoys her. Oh, okay. There. Now I got something I can follow. I can say to myself, she's in a situation, her younger brother reads her diary. Okay, now I'm off and running. She's going to have an attitude about that. I can imagine it's going to be a bad attitude, but does she love her brother? Does she like to teach her brother? Does she hate her brother? I can make choices around this. I might say the typical thing is she hates her brother and she beats him up. But if she also loves him and wants to instruct him, wants to be a good older sister to her, then she's going to experience some inner conflict. I hate that he's reading my diary, but I really want to show him what it means to have boundaries. So I know what I'll do. I'll take something that he doesn't want me to know about, and I'll investigate that. I will invade his privacy, violate his privacy, so it'll give him a taste of his own medicine. I've learned a lot about the character just by making some choices, by examining a situation.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.